Hello viewer, welcome to Worldview, a program designed to bring you up to speed with trending developments the world over. My name is Emedion James, reaching you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at some of the major headlines that we have for you today. Thailand and Cambodia agreed to a ceasefire, says Malaysia Prime Minister. UK to recognize Palestinian state unless Israel meets conditions. Trump says Russia faces tariff in 10 days if no progress on ending Ukraine war. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in just a moment. Many thanks for joining us. First on Worldview today, a powerful magnitude 8.8 earthquake off Russia's far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula triggered tsunami waves of up to 5 meters nearby and sparked evacuation orders as far away as Hawaii and across the Pacific today. The shallow earthquake damaged buildings and injured several people in the remote Russian region, while much of Japan's eastern seaboard devastated by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake and tsunami in 2011 was ordered to evacuate. A resident in the city of Petropavlovsk and Kamchatsky said the shaking went on for several minutes. Video footage released by the region's health ministry showed a team of medics in Kamchatsky performing surgery equipment and the floor beneath them. In the meantime, many Hawaiians have heeded official advice to leave coastal areas after a powerful earthquake thousands of miles away near Russian prompted a tsunami warning in the U.S. state and other parts of the Pacific. By Tuesday evening, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said that waves several feet high were being recorded on the island of Maui, Oahu, and Hawaii, where the capital, Honolulu, is situated. The center urged that urgent action should be taken to protect lives and properties, adding that the danger may persist for hours. Governor Joe Green told people in the lower-lying areas to stay calm and move to higher grounds, but later struck a hopeful tone, saying he had yet to see a wave of consequence in the state. In a related development, workers at Japan's embattled Fukushima nuclear plant were evacuated earlier today after tsunami warnings were issued across the country. The plant operator said all 4,000 of its workers have been evacuated, adding that there were no abnormalities detected. It comes after a massive 8.7 magnitude earthquake struck off Russia's far eastern coast, triggering warnings across the Pacific. For many in Fukushima, the warning is likely to bring back memories of one of the worst nuclear disasters the world has seen. In March 2011, Japan was hit by a devastating 9.0 magnitude earthquake and subsequent tsunami that went on to kill more than 18 people. The tsunami flooded the plant, disabling its emergency generators and causing them to overheat, leading to a nuclear meltdown. More than 14 years later, hundreds of tons of extremely hazardous materials still remain at Fukushima, and challenges and controversies surrounding it are still very much present even now. Still in the Asian Pacific region, at least 30 people have died in Beijing and more than 80,000 were evacuated to safety, Chinese authorities said, as heavy rains and floods ravaged roads and houses in northern China. 8 other people died after a landslide on Monday in Shangde City, about 3 hours northeast of Beijing. China is dealing with a summer of extreme weather. Record heatwave hit the country's eastern region earlier this month, while floods swept the country's southwest. Against the backdrop of the massive flood in northern China, President Xi Jinping has called for all-out rescue efforts and told authorities to prepare for worst-case and extreme scenarios. Meanwhile, Chinese authorities have allocated 200 million yuan for recovery efforts, including repairing, transportation, and other infrastructure. In a separate development, Thailand's military accused Cambodian forces today of breaching a ceasefire agreement at 3 separate locations along the disputed border, warning that continued aggression could compel Thai forces to respond more decisively. The allegations came less than 2 days after both governments agreed to a ceasefire brokered in Malaysia, which came into effect at midnight on Monday. This was aimed to stop fighting and prevent escalation of the deadliest conflict in more than a decade, following 5 days of intense fighting that has killed at least 43 people and displaced over 300,000 civilians on either side. The truce came after a sustained push from Malaysian Premier Anwar Ibrahim and US President Donald Trump, and a letter warning the Thai and Cambodian leaders that if fighting continued, they would pay dearly for it. Let's move now to the Middle East, where Sir Keir Starmer has said that the UK will recognize a Palestinian state in September unless Israel takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza. The Prime Minister said Israel must also meet other conditions, including agreeing to a ceasefire, committing to a long-term sustainable peace that delivers a two-state solution. He further added that allowing the United Nations to restart the supply of aid, or the UK would take the step at September's UN's General Assembly. The UK government has previously said recognition should come at a point when it can have maximum impact as part of a peace process. However, the Prime Minister has been undergoing pressure, including from his own MPs, to act more quickly. Recall that last week, France also announced it would officially recognize the Palestinian state in September, the first of the G7 group of the world's richest countries to do so. In the meantime, two Israeli human rights organizations have said that Israel was committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, the first major voices in Israeli society to level the strongest possible accusation against the state, which vehemently denies it. Rights group B. Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights Israel released a report at a press conference in Jerusalem saying to destroy Palestinian society in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blasts his British counterpart Keir Starmer for announcing, saying that it rewards Hamas' monstrous terrorism and punishes its victim. Netanyahu further posted on his X account, and I quote, "Starmer's reward Hamas' monstrous terrorism and punishes its victim. A jihadi state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terrorists always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen," he concludes. However, Starmer's announcement of the potential move came days after French President Emmanuel Macron said Paris would recognize the Palestinian state at the United Nations General Assembly in September. In the meantime, Britain today rejected criticism that it was rewarding militant group Hamas by setting out plans to recognize a Palestinian state unless Israel took steps to improve the situation in Gaza and bring about peace. The sight of emaciated Gaza children has shocked the world in recent days, and on Tuesday, a hunger monitor warned that a worst-case scenario of famine was unfolding there and immediate action was needed to avoid widespread death. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's ultimatum setting a September deadline for Israel prompted an immediate in Jerusalem, who said it rewarded Hamas and punished the victims of their 2023 cross-border attack. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said he did not think Hamas should be rewarded with recognition of Palestinians' independence. In a related development, Saudi Arabia and France called on countries at the United Nations to support a declaration that outlines tangible, time-bound and irreversible steps towards implementing a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. The 7-page declaration is a result of an hosted by Saudi Arabia and France on a decades-long conflict. The United States and Israel boycotted the event. The first step outlined in the declaration is to end a 22-month war between Israel and the Palestinian militant Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Britain will recognize the Palestinian state in September if Israel doesn't end its military campaign in Gaza and commit to peace, Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lamia told an international conference at the United Nations that aims to work on a two-state solution between Israel and the Palestinians. On trade matters, U.S. President Donald Trump said that the United States will start imposing tariff and other measures on Russia 10 days from today if Moscow showed no progress towards ending its more than 3-year-long war in Ukraine. Trump first announced that he was shortening the initial 50-day deadline he set a month ago for action from Moscow and mentioned a new deadline of 10 to 12 days. Speaking aboard Air Force One, Trump said he was not worried about the potential impact of Russian sanctions on the oil market or prices, vowed to boost domestic oil production to offset any impact. In the meantime, Russian airstrikes on a prison and hospital in southeastern Ukraine killed at least 19 people, officials said. 16 of the people were killed when Russia bombed a prison in the front lines of Zaporizhia region in an attack Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said was deliberate. He said 43 people were injured in the incident. The Russian knew it was a civilian facility and they could not have been unaware, Zelensky said in a nightly video address. In a related development, Moldovan President Nia Sandu said today that electoral corruption and illegal external financing from Russia were the biggest threat to parliamentary elections due in September. She told the press briefing in Chisinau that the Russian Federation wants to control the Republic of Moldova from autumn onwards and is preparing unprecedented interference in the September elections. We'll go on a short break right now. After the break, we'll take a look at Trump's report in South Africa, where he plans to skip the G20 city policy meeting due to disapproval. Do stay joined to us for these and many more right after the breather. Let's move now to Africa, where President Donald Trump said that he might skip the upcoming Group of 20 Leaders Summit in South Africa in November and send someone else to represent the United States, citing his disapproval of South African policies. Still in Africa, South Sudan has told the administration of President Donald Trump it is willing to consider accepting more migrants deported. Politico reported today. Meanwhile, the African country has also urged Washington to lift sanctions imposed on one of its top officials, the report added, citing people familiar with the matter and diplomatic correspondence. Away from that, President Donald Trump has said that India could face tariffs as high as 25% if it fails to finalize a trade deal with the U.S. this week. The U.S. has set a 1st August deadline for India and several other countries to either reach a trade agreement or face increased tariffs. Indian and American officials have been negotiating a trade deal for the past few months, but officials have alternated between sounding optimistic and cautious about it when it will be finally announced. Still on trade matters, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened Brazil with 50% tariff this month, venting his anger over the country's persecution of his political ally, former President Jair Bolsonaro, but the move may provide ammunition to the plaintiff, aiming to bring down the centerpiece of the White House tariff agenda. Trade law experts and plaintiffs in a federal court challenged to Trump's sweeping tariff, which are backed by the 1977 International Emergency Economic Power Act, said the president's outburst against Brazil is another prime example of him far exceeding any legal authority to levy tariffs. Shoaib is representing 5 small businesses that won the first round of a legal challenge to Trump's use of IEEPA to impose sweeping reciprocal and fentanyl-related tariffs on nearly all U.S. trading partners. Shoaib said he expected threatened U.S. tariff on Brazil to come up during oral arguments before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit in Washington on Thursday. Lastly, on Worldview Today, YouTube could be included in Australia's world-first social media ban for children under 16 after the government ditched a previous exception for the platform. The video sharing site was set to be excluded from the ban, which would limit TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, and Snapchat, and is due to start in December. Under the ban, teenagers will still be able to view YouTube videos but will not be permitted to have an account, which is required for uploading content or interacting on the platform. YouTube, owned by Google, has argued it shouldn't be blocked for children as the platform offers benefits and value to younger Australians. Australia's laws are being watched with great interest by global leaders, with Norway announcing a similar ban and the UK saying it is considering following suit. And that's all we have for you on Worldview Today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Emedion James, reaching you live from you. You've been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.